Would you share, I mean, either what's the one biggest challenge that you had to face going through that, or some of the big challenges you faced?
Yeah, it really was my own insecurities because every time I would try something, the insecurity would come up. Who do you
Mm,
think you are, Lisa? You don't have the experience, right? I would walk into a board meeting with my husband and his two business partners, and they'd already been in business for 8 years. His business partners before that had already been in business for 10 years. So here I was sitting at the table where I had zero experience, where I'd been a stay at home wife for 8 years. I was cooking, cleaning, and taking care of my puppies. And, and I really want to make sure actually that I emphasize here to anyone who's just coming across me for the first time, there is nothing wrong with being a stay at home wife. If that's
right.
what you want, I freaking applaud you. It's just,
Mhm.
I didn't want that. And
Yeah.
I was in quite desperation.
Mm,
And so when you're in quiet desperation, how do you get out? It's the imposter syndrome. It's the negative voice. That was my hardest thing. So walking into a boardroom when you're with seasoned entrepreneurs and you have no idea what you're talking about, it's very scary.
yeah.
And so for me, the lessons really were, Lisa, it doesn't matter who you are today. Who do you want to become and how do you get there? And
Hmm.
so if I can adopt the identity, instead of the identity of being the person that's always right or being the identity of being the person that always wants to do a good job, how do I adopt an identity that can serve me even when I fall, even when I fail? And
Hmm.
the idea was that you could have the identity of the learner. So
Yeah.
now imagine I walk into a boardroom, I have like the anxiety of like, oh my God, do I speak up? Do I not? But then I just pivot and go, but Lisa, you've got the identity of the learner. And that just allowed me to go, oh my God, I want to soak in everything everyone's got to say. I don't feel intimidated anymore. I go in with a pen and a pad, right, and be like, okay, what can I learn today? And that allowed me to literally walk into any room, tackle any project, any
Mm,
circumstance or any situation with grace and with the ability to get better. And so
wow.
even when I went from shipping bars from my living room floor one day to then I had a facility, I had 40 employees working underneath me within 2 years. So you
Wow.
can imagine, Jen, that it's just
Yeah.
me, little old me, shipping from my living room floor. And then two
Little.
years later, yeah, I've got 40 employees underneath me. And those employees, our first facility was in Compton. And
Wow.
again, with the idea that we don't care who you are today, all we care about is who do you want to become. We
Mm,
didn't care whether you had a criminal record. And that was something me and my husband just felt very strongly about. And so we just
I
put the
love that.
word out on the street, if you will. And so half of my crew were ex-convicts. They were like 6'5", big jack dudes with like tats all over them. And so it's very intimidating. I'm 5'1" for people that don't know, with a British
Mhm.
accent. So, I understand human behavior. In human behavior, it says that people try and get away with anything if they can. Not
Yeah.
to be mean spirited or anything like that, but I realized very quickly that I had to command a room, not demand a room.
Mm,
And so how do I command a room? It means I have to learn the skill set of talking to my team. And I
right.
didn't know what I was doing. So again, going back to kind of where I started, whereas I just have to keep learning, like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I'm the person that can go into something and then not know something to then learn. I read all the books, right? I was reading
Mhm.
Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. That
Mhm.
was the book at the time that was really big. Loved the book, but
Mhm.
it's corporate world. So I'm
Yeah.
here trying to use her skills that she's teaching on a very different environment with different people in a different circumstance and situation.
Right.
So I kept failing at being a
Mm,
great leader. And so that's when I just had to say, Lisa, what do you know? Like, go back to your heart. And I'm like,
mm.
well, these guys like hip hop. I'm a freaking hip hop maniac. So what happens if I got some speakers and blasted Tupac on
Mm.
days where it was really busy? Instead of them getting stressed out, now I
Right.
can have some fun with it. And that
Mhm.
ended up working like magic. I would have these like competitions with them. I would have like, offer them like free Quest protein bars if they beat
Mhm.
me on
Uh,
certain situation. Like if they could lift a certain amount of, boxes, if they could package boxes quicker than I could. And in doing all of that, it made them realize that I was human. It made me very relatable and it made me very comfortable around them. And they could sense that I wasn't trying to be someone that I wasn't. And so those were just a little like of those stories of where a
Yeah.
situation happened where I could have failed. I could have let my insecurities take over. I could
Mhm.
have run in the other direction. But every time I said to myself, Lisa, if you don't, you're going to lose your house. You better figure it out. It ended up teaching me an amazing lesson.